Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Flight Deck right here on Blue Jays Nation. I am your host, Adam Peddle, covering Game 2 between the Blue Jays and the New York Mets. And guess what, Blue Jays fans? You should give yourselves a pat on the back because the Blue Jays, they just snapped their 6-game losing streak, and you were probably there for it. So yes, give yourself a pat on the back. I had the pleasure to watch last night's game. Now, a little bit of behind the scenes. I was playing some Red Dead Redemption 2 as I was watching the game because that's what I like to do in my off time. Watch it in the background, play a little bit of video game action. But what I saw was a very Met-like performance from the New York Mets. Blue Jays, not so much, even though they've been metting it up in their own regards all season long. This game, however, they did not. And they won 2-1, and they won in a very tight ball game and snapped the losing streak. Still 5 games below 500. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the trade deadline because that is looming and what the Blue Jays need to do in order to get themselves in a good position to buy, or the reality is if they have to sell, what does that look like? And what position would they be in to finally pull that trigger? And right before this as well, guys, we just had some breaking news about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., so we'll give you that update at the end as we break down the lineups. But before we get into it, everybody, Flight Deck is a presentation of Bet365. Check out Bet365, 5-run early payout. When your team goes up 5, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus, Ontario only, and please play responsibly. Let's get into games, shall we? Because honestly, it shouldn't take that long to get through. I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm sitting there gaming, and I probably looked up 4 times, 4 times throughout the game. So I think the first one that we all know, if you were watching the game, was probably the most exciting, and that was that leadoff inside the park, I guess, Little League home run by George Springer. Technically was a triple with an error, but it was a Little League homer, and it was a fun way to begin the ball game. It was the 2-2 count, first at bat of the game for George Springer, and there you go. Juan Soto does not come up with that. He claimed that it was, the turf, I'm not used to it. And then you have the center fielder botch it over there, throwing it into left field corner, and then, at that point, George Springer's already rounding third, and Juan Soto gave up on it. I said this to our producer, Thomas, right before the show. It actually boggles my mind that a road team coming into a new ballpark that they don't play in too often doesn't take the time to actually get accustomed to the field. When I played ball, that's all I did. I mean, the batter's box doesn't change. The pitching mound doesn't really change. Sometimes maybe the batter's eye changes from time to time. But if I'm a corner outfielder, which that's what I was when I played ball, I would take the time to scout out, my foul territory, where the warning track was, how much space I had. But especially if I was on a turf field, I would have my coach hit fly balls, and I would actually have a few bounce in front of me just so I could understand what kind of bounce am I dealing with in case of that situation right there that a ball lands in front of him. But regardless, they metted, right? That's what the Mets do. They're going to met it up and make mistakes and give us a first at-bat for our game. A Little League homer. I can't call it inside the park home run because technically it was a Little League homer. Then on the bump for the Blue Jays, you had Trey Yesavage, and I broke him down just yesterday, and I was saying I think Trey Yesavage could have some good stuff against the New York Mets. Now, I thought there would be a lot more strikeouts. There wasn't really. He only had 3 strikeouts, but he still lasted 6 2/3 innings, only giving up 3 hits on 1 run, which was a Francisco Lindor homer. Funny enough, he committed an error, was upset that their new manager, their interim manager, took out Manaya after he committed the error, or 2 at-bats after he committed the error. And pretty upset. And then what does he do? He goes up next inning, hits a home run. I guess that's how you're going to make up for your errors, is doing that for your team. But regardless, that was the 1 run that Trey Yesavage gave up. Very good outing, honestly. Again, not a lot of swing and miss, but weak contact. And the Mets, when I was watching their at-bats, very eerily similar to the Toronto Blue Jays, where they want to chase end result, which is I need a base hit. I need my team to win today, and they're in their own domes, right, in their heads when they're at the dish, and they're trying to get results done when they just need to simply focus on one pitch, one spot, and one velocity, and look for that early in the count and do damage. But to Trey Yesavage's benefit, they didn't do that, and he had a very solid outing. So did Manaya. He had a very solid outing as well. We ended up scoring that second run off of a Miles Straw sac fly, which he tends to do from time to time throughout the course of this season. And then it came down to the final inning where you had Louis Varland shut the door. A little shaky there, a couple runners let on, but it's Louis Varland, and he's just been an absolute beast this season. Take a look at this, everybody, by Just Baseball, Just BB _ media on X. I mean, this is an incredible stat right here. The only relievers this season with an ERA below 1 with no blown saves, minimum 10 saves, is Mason Miller and Louis Varland. And Louis Varland has become one of the league's top closers in Toronto. He is undoubtedly one of the best. Just honestly, again, I feel like a broken record saying this over and over and over again, but just an absolute steal of a deal, right? Louis Varland, they're right there with Mason Miller. You could have traded for Mason Miller at last year's deadline. I would have been like, wow, that's amazing. And then we traded for Louis Varland. I'm thinking, okay, guy with control could help out in the bullpen with some depth. If you were to tell me that this guy would be right there, neck and neck with Mason Miller the following year in terms of closers in baseball, I'd say you're crazy. I'd say that's a hot take, but you'd be right. Yeah, so shout out to Louis Varland, shutting the door, 17 for 17 in save opportunities this year. I want to see that switch for him going into the committee, right? The committee role in the back end closing ball games. Let's be real, he is the closer. That was a massive win for not only Louis Varland, but the Blue Jays, and also, Jeff Hoffman. Let's not forget Jeff Hoffman as of late has been pretty dang good. So that was the ball game right there, 2-1, and the Blue Jays get the win. They snap the 6-game losing streak. But where does that leave the Toronto Blue Jays now? I mean, if you were here yesterday, you would have heard me talking my head off about how disappointed I am, how this team is struggling, how Vladdy needs to do better, and we might as well be looking at a sell right now. One win doesn't change a lot for me. I'm still kind of in that mindset, but I wanted to propose this to the chat for those who are watching right now. I want to ask you guys this. How many games out of a wild card do you need to see the Toronto Blue Jays by the trade deadline for you to want them to sell? Because to buy, I would argue that they're kind of still in that buying window. When we take a look at the standings, you can see the Blue Jays, they're still relatively close to a wild card spot. They're right now just 2.5 games out of a wild card spot, which, yeah, it's definitely not as good as it was before when we were sitting comfortably a game, half a game in that third wild card spot. But again, they're still right there, just on the outside looking in, and the Mariners are owning that spot, that third wild card spot. Now, for me, and we talked about this actually on the Blue Jays Today podcast, for me as well, and I agree with Nick, if we're looking, we're getting close to the trade deadline, maybe let's say it's like the last week of July, and we're sitting 4 or more games out of a wild card. I mean, at that point, that's when the American League has started to figure it out and start picking up some wins, and they're getting ahead of us. Because I want to sit here and tell you, like, oh, yeah, if we just win these many games of the next these many games, then we're buyers. The reality is, folks, whether we buy or not is determined on the rest of the American League. And that's the Seattle Mariners. That's the Houston Astros, as you're seeing there. And that's the Minnesota Twins. And even right behind us, you don't see it right there, but it's the Athletics and it's the Baltimore Orioles. Those are the teams that are going to determine where the Blue Jays buy. So from a Blue Jays perspective, it feels like all you could really do right now is just focus on winning, especially against the Mets, where it's a very winnable series at the Rogers Center. Texas should have been a winnable series, or at least a split at bare minimum. And the Mets are absolutely a winnable series. And then, we don't have it up here, but just looking ahead, you've got the Mariners, you've got the Giants, who are one of the worst, actually just neck and neck, honestly, with the Mets in the NL in terms of record. And then the Padres, who, yes, they do have a 3 games above 500 record, but still they have some weaknesses and flaws in their game. So for me, I'm thinking, look, if you can just stay afloat, stay within 4 games, do a conservative retool, and get a couple of tools that you need, like a good power right-handed bat, and definitely some starting pitching depth. But if they're anything further away than 4 games below 500, and I see my mom's actually in the chat, her favorite player is George Springer. George Springer's got to go. Kevin Gausman's got to go. And Daulton Varsho's got to go. Those are the guys that are up for contracts that will probably command a decent return. they definitely got to go. And I see Lucas Jays fan in here saying, go with you and Nick 4, meaning 4 games below or out of the wild card picture. I do tend to agree. My mother, Helena, shout out her, I'm thinking sell. We have to shake something up. So my mom's completely out, completely out if that happens. And also AJ Marash, don't you worry, my friend. It is coming, saying, how we feeling with Vladdy being scratched? Yes, I'm absolutely going to get to that, AJ Marash, as we get closer to the lineups. We have a couple other pieces of news I want to get to first, but that's a big one. And it's something that I've been kind of lingering in the back of my head of what we should do with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Just a decision that the front office needs to make. But we'll get to that in a little bit. First things first, we have some pitching news. First, we have a guy who was recently DFA'd by the Toronto Blue Jays, and he was perfect. But good news, everybody. We retain him. Simeon Woods Richardson. This is by Keegan Matheson. He has cleared waivers and has been assigned to AAA Buffalo. Hey, and he also goes on to say good outcome for the Blue Jays, who could now have some time to stretch Wood Richardson back out as a true starter. And I absolutely agree. When he was with the Twins this year, not so good of a starter. He had a 7+ ERA, right? Not 7+, but you know what I mean. It's 7 ERA or higher. But you look at the Blue Jays rotation right now, and you've got Corbin that was in the rotation, and then you have another kind of unsure, which is Bieber. You're hoping he can stabilize rotation, but that fifth spot with Corbin, and the reason I'm highlighting that because we have some news coming up about that in just a moment, is we're not sure of. So let's bring over that right now. Let's talk about that Corbin news that also came out. Patrick Corbin is moving to the bullpen. Yes, so that spot is no longer there in the rotations by Ben Nicholson-Smith, and tomorrow's starter is to be decided. There are so many people online saying, how could we do this? How could we let Patrick Corbin pitch on Canada Day? This is going to be a disaster. And honestly, I was kind of one of those people. Not just because it was Canada Day, but also you just can't have Patrick Corbin start games through anymore when he can barely go 3, 4, 5 innings. And when he does go 5 innings, he's giving up 3, 4, 5, 6 runs. And the game's already over. So you can't have that happen, especially not on Canada Day. But they're not going to let that happen because he's going to the bullpen, which begs the question, who is going to be starting in the rotation tomorrow? Well, when I take a look over at our Fangraphs page, one name that really pops up that's immediately probably ready to go at least give you 4 or 5 innings is Spencer Miles. Spencer Miles has been, of course, one of the bright spots for the Blue Jays, and it feels like he's got the easiest path to transition to a starter. Because, again, he usually goes 3, 4, 5 innings when we have those Corbin starts anyways. Whenever we're getting blown out, Spencer Miles, you're up, buddy, and he usually does pretty dang good. And over the course of this season, he's got an ERA of 3 through 51 innings. That's right, a 3 on the dot. My bet, and I don't think they have announced it. No, I don't think they did. Yeah, I'm looking right now. They haven't. My bet is that it's going to be a bullpen day, probably with a combination of Spencer Miles company. Would not be surprised to see them maybe open with a Fisher or open with a Fluharty. Fisher, he hasn't pitched since Saturday, so even if he pitches today, maybe you could still go with Braden Fisher to begin the game, or you go with like an Adam Macko or a Flu, depending on, who, if they're going to have lefties up there at the top of the lineup to begin the ball game. But yeah, that's my bet. You guys let me know in the comments down below. Who do you think should start? Maybe in the future, SWR comes up. Maybe that kind of opens up a window for him to come up and start, at least for the time being, right? Because, if we are going to compete, let's be realistic. I don't really want Spencer Miles or SWR starting in this rotation because we don't really know what that's going to be. I'd rather, if we're going to be in this competitive window, especially if we're going to trade at the deadline and be competitive in the AL, I'd want us to go and address that starting pitching need and get somebody with a little more stability. But again, you guys let me know. Who do you want to see start on Canada Day tomorrow? It should be a lot of fun. We're also going to be live for the Canada Day game on our Blue Jays Today YouTube channel. And, of course, I'll be back here on Blue Jays Nation breaking down the Canada Day lineups, breaking down the game that we're about to see tonight, etc., etc. Also going live for the game tonight on Blue Jays Today. Let's talk about something that's pretty interesting. The All-Star ballot, ladies and gentlemen. The Blue Jays, they had a lot of finalists, but that's just the first round. The second round is what really matters. People get to vote on who's going to start the All-Star game. So fans get out there and vote, and they have been for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Would you look at that? That guy is just, he keeps getting votes. And again, I don't know if I said it on this channel, excuse me, but I've definitely said it on Blue Jays today. I have changed my mentality about the All-Star game. Honestly, it's because of this year and what we're seeing with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It is absolutely a popularity contest. It has always been really a popularity contest because the fans do vote in who they want to be on the roster and who they want to start. So obviously it's a popularity contest. And this year really goes to show that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is still beating Ben Rice. 55% of the votes are for Vladdy to start the All-Star game, and 45 goes to Ben Rice. This isn't the final number. There's still going to be another update coming a little bit later. But still, Vladdy, that's hilarious. I mean, you guys don't need me to tell you that he's not having a good year. In fact, he's actually a below-average player. If there was a below-average All-Stars, he would absolutely be starting in that one, undoubtedly just based on the numbers. But the fact that he can beat out one of the better, because the best one is Nick Kurtz in the AL, one of the better first basemen in the AL, it's just hilarious. And you know what, fans, just keep voting. I think this is absolutely hilarious. Excuse me. And it's making a lot of Americans out there kind of angry, saying that like, oh, Canada's ruining the All-Star game. That was a legit article that was out there. Cool, let's ruin it. Like, like who cares? Like, we don't have a lot of good things going for us right now. Let's just keep ruining the All-Star game for everybody. And Kevin in here saying Vladdy doesn't even deserve to be there. Well, here's the thing, Kevin. If you're a numbers guy, you're absolutely correct. But the reality is, my man, is that it's not about numbers. Well, actually, kind of is. It's about voting numbers. So that's what really matters. So if it's about voting numbers, then he does deserve to be there. So unfortunately, yeah, sorry, Kevin. If you don't want him to be there, then vote for Ben Rice. I guess that'd be my advice to you. Now, we're gonna get to lines a little bit later, but I want to just bring this up. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We just got this update. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been scratched from the lineup with back tightness, and we had Lucas the Jays fan. I think it was Lucas the Jays fan talking about it. It was AJ Marash talking about it. Yeah, that's an update that just happened. And I'll say this piece right here, Thomas, and then we'll get to the lineups. Honestly, I think Vladdy should hit the IL. I think it's time. This guy in the last couple weeks has been dealing with this back tightness. He missed a few games dealing with back tightness, and that blowout against the Cubs, he left the game midway with back tightness. His swing mechanically is not there. The vibes are not there. The numbers aren't there. I think this is the perfect time for Vladdy's first IL stint ever in his career. He's never had an IL stint. What better time than to sit on the IL, rehab, recover, when you're having one of the worst stretches in your entire career? Not only is this good to get him healthy, but get his mind healthy, get his mechanics right. He can rest, he can recover, he can do what he needs, get therapy, get physical therapy, get right, and then go hit the Tages, put the ball on the tee and get right. Get right mechanically. Talk to people. I know he's got his own circle of people to help him with his swing. Talk to those guys. Take that time where you're not rushed day after day after day to get ready for the ball game when you don't feel right. Go feel right, not only for your back, but for your mind and your confidence. So that's where I'm at. Vladdy's got to hit the IL. I felt this same way, and he hasn't really been back. He was back at the end of the year. I felt the same way about Anthony Santander. When he didn't look right, I'm like, go hit the IL. Granted, he's been hitting the IL forever, and we're paying him a lot of money. But I feel that with a lot of players. When you're not right, go hit the IL. But you guys let me know in the chat, would you want him to hit the IL? Because I think it's time. And honestly, too, sometimes the lineup might look better without him in it, quite frankly, right? And I think that's, that's not no disrespect to Vlad, but right now in that 3 spot, especially with a 91 OPS plus, I don't know what it's changed to after last night's game. Probably not too much. It's just not good. It's just not good. Well, speaking of the upcoming game and the lineup of him getting scratched, let's start with the pitching matchups first before we get into it. But before we get into that, let's give a shout out to our friends at Table Fare and Social. Before first pitch, ladies and gentlemen, swing by Table Fare and Social. Weekday drinks, great eats, and it's right by the subway. Go and the ballpark. So if you're commuting down, especially for tomorrow, if you're going to the Canada Day game, hey, go check out Table Fare and Social. It's right there, man. And if you're commuting down, you don't have to go search around the city. Bang, it's right there, right when you get out of the GO station. And then again, if you're going down to, if you're driving down as well, perfect. You can go park nearby and go check out Table Fare and Social. And go check it out, everybody. Again, they got great foods, great eats, weekday pre-games made simple. Let's get into this pitching matchup here, everybody. It's going to be Kevin Gausman up against Nolan McLean. Nolan McLean, kind of a young, exciting guy, off to a decent start this year. He got roughed up in the beginning of the year, but he's really rounded things out. He's got a 4.03 ERA with 106 strikeouts, over 89.1 or a 1/3 innings pitched. And that's a lot of strikeouts, and he's been racking them up lately. He got blown up his last time out for 6 earned runs against the Chicago Cubs, but still struck out 9. The time before that against the Cincinnati Reds, he gave up 0 earned runs in 7 innings, also striking out 9. And before that, 2 earned runs. Before that, 1. So he's been on a bit of a tear. Cubs are a good team. Blue Jays offense, not so good compared to the Cubs. So Nolan McLean is not going to be easy to get, especially, and now I know I've been harping on him for his bat, but especially now Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the lineup's always going to look thinner. And also, we'll get a lineup. There's also a big bat missing. We'll get to that later. I don't want to spoil it for y'all. So it's going to be tough sledding for these Toronto Blue Jays. Now, for Kevin Gausman on the bump, he's been roughed up. Last 2 outings, we basically lost the game before it even began. His ERA on the season is sitting at a 4.36, whip of 1.19. I said it before, I say it again. He's just got to get through. He's got to get through the first inning without being behind. I felt like that was kind of my key to victory yesterday. It's like you gotta score first. That's not my key to victory today. But if I were to do a minor key to victory for Kevin Gausman and the boys, it's don't get blown up after the first inning. Please, for the love of goodness, just please find a way to get through this and get back on track, because I know this isn't what Kevin Gausman is at all. And my key to victory actually is about Kevin Gausman, but again, I'll get to that a little bit later. Let's bring up the lineups here, everybody. Without Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you're looking at a pretty thin lineup, but it's not just because of him. It's because of Kazuma Okamoto. Look at this here, everybody. George Springer leading off DH. Lucas, right field, my guy. Love that man. Then you got Kirk in the 3 spot. Man, I mean, yeah, he had a homer the last series and stood up Vladdy a little bit. Some people will disagree with that, but I think he made a statement. He's in the 3 spot. Then you got Sean Keyes making his first start of the year, I believe. I thought I saw a tweet about that. He's at first base. Then you got Ernie Clement in the 5 spot. Varsho is in center field. Urias at second base. Pinango in left field. And they got Jimenez shortstop rounding out the lineup. My goodness. I don't even know what is going on here. Like, as soon as you remove Kazuma Okamoto, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good because, yeah, like after Lucas, Kirk is still trying to get back after the injury. Keyes, again, exciting dude, got his first major league hit a while ago. Still, you're not really sure what you're going to get from him. Then you got Clement. I mean, again, solid guy. Varsho's got some swing and a miss in the game, and I really do think he loves that high fastball. Urias, again, he's been kind of okay in the small sample size. More hits than Lenyn Sosa in the time he's been here. But then you got Pinango and Jimenez, who's had a decent. I don't know. It's just kind of all over the place. So that's the lineup, and you got to hope they do something. And then for the Texas Rangers, let me see if I can pull it up right here. You've got. I actually don't have it right here. The Texas Rangers lineup. Yeah, I don't have the lineup right here. But or not Texas Rangers. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, New York Mets. Oh my gosh, my brain farting. But yeah. Let's move on and let's get to my key to victory here, everybody. The key to victory for tonight's game is Kevin Gausman to throw less sliders. It's that simple, folks. When he's gotten beaten up, he's been throwing the slider, and it's been hanging over the heart of the zone. Here's a fun fact, everybody. You want to see how much his slider gets beat up? I'll tell you how much it gets beat up. His slugging against this year, his slider, is 1,095. 1,095. You want to hear another fun fact? So he throws his slider 9% of the time. His four-seam fastball 51% of the time. So, significantly more. And he's given up 5 home runs off the fastball this year and 5 home runs off the slider. And a lot of those have been coming in the last little bit. So for me, Kevin Gausman, less sliders. Stick to the OG combo. You're going heater at the knees. You're going splitter off of that. You're catching some people off guard with the heater up and in. That's got to be the combo for Kevin Gausman. And for moving on and moving forward, that's got to be it until they lay off your slider. And yes, thank you, Thomas. He's got the lineup for the New York Mets. It's going to be Benj in right field, Soto in left field, Bichette at third base, Lindor shortstop at in the 4-hole, Jerry Young first base, Ewing center field, and they got Alvarez DH, Beatty second base, Torrance catcher. Like, this isn't a good team, guys. Like, Bo Bichette's getting hot lately, but Soto's obviously Soto. But this, other than that, guys, it's really not a good team. Like, you can win this game if Gausman can just throw less sliders. And honestly, that's what it's got to be. Like, if Gausman gets blown up, I don't think we win this game. I mean, that goes without saying. Of course, your starting pitcher gets blown up, you're not going to have a good chance to win the game. But really, it's got to be a tight ball game. And you got to hope that the Mets met themselves into a loss. And you got to hope that you just get enough offense from unexpected places. But before I give you my bet for tonight's game when we wrap up the show, let's give a shout out to Bet365. Baseball fans, there's nothing better than a day at the ballpark, especially on Canada Day. Pretty fun day, that is. But there's nothing worse than waiting in long lines around the ballpark. That's why Bet365 5-run early payout. When the team you're riding goes up by 5 runs at any point in the game, they'll pay out your bet right then and there, win or lose. There's no waiting required. Besides, the early you get paid, the early you can go back and get another hot dog. Bet365, download the app and see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 years or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. And if someone you know or you have some concerns about gambling, visit conexontario.ca. Terms and conditions apply. Because of the lineup, because it is Noel McLean and he is pretty dang good, this one I feel like is an absolute smash and you're getting some pretty good odds. It's under 3.5 runs for the Blue Jays to score today, and you're getting plus money. It's plus 100. And again, when I looked at that lineup, where are the hits getting strung together? Where are the homers? Okamoto's gone, right? You can't count on Varsho homers or Springer homers or Lucas homers or Ernie homers. No, those are guys that at this point are happy if they're even getting in the high teens by the end of the year. There's no homers in this lineup. There's not a lot of singles merchants and back to back and high batting averages. Give me the under on the Blue Jays runs today. That feels like an absolute slam dunk. And if you want to ride with me, you got to go download the app at Bet365. All right, guys, that is the end of today's show. Again, right here on Blue Jays Nation, we're live every game day, 1 hour before first pitch, right here on Blue Jays Nation on the YouTube channel and Instagram at Blue Jays Nation. Same place, same time tomorrow, everybody. I'm Adam Peddle. Enjoy the game, folks.
Thanks for watching the live stream. If you want more content like this, Blue Jays focused, make sure to like and subscribe to the Blue Jays Nation YouTube channel.